BC is a 12.5 point favorite over UConn. They need to do these three things to defeat them. I'll tell you what those are in just a moment.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome. This is Locked On BC. I am your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs help you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. BC is a 12.5 point favorite over UConn. This game on paper looks like BC should easily win this game. On paper. I'm not naive enough to say that BC is going to run away with any game. I've seen enough in the last couple of years to know that anything can happen at any game. As good as a team can play sometimes, when you have, a team with some momentum and things are going right, you're feeling good. Then all of a sudden it's like, whoop, pull the rug out from underneath you. And then they lay a big stinker. So today's episode is not to compare BC and UConn. We'll have Mitch Wolf on of Eagle Insider tomorrow to look at that. I'm going to give you three things BC needs to do to win this game. And here's the first one. They need to limit turnovers. Against UConn last year, Boston College turned the ball over 3 times. That led to points, and that was the doom of their game. I mean, if you looked at the numbers, if you just looked at yards, especially passing, you're like, oh, Jakovic and Moorhead threw for 250 yards. They should have been able to put up points. Nope. They were so sloppy with that ball. They were turning it over left and right. And that just made it very, very easy for Boston College to lose to UConn and for the Huskies to get their first ever upset win over the Eagles. BC had 5 turnovers total. They had 2 fumbles, 3 interceptions. I don't care how bad your team is. If you turn the ball over 5 times, you're going to lose. So when your team is good, you can't just be turning the ball over. So you can't have sloppy turnovers from Thomas Castellanos. He's got to just be careful with, making bad throws. Holding on to the ball. It's supposed to be a nice weather game on Saturday. That's a positive, right? Like, you don't have to worry about it being slippery. But you also have to make sure that you're just being protective of the ball. Now, over the last couple of games, BC's done pretty well. They had that 1 interception last game. Thomas Castellanos threw that deep ball to Joseph Griffin Jr., and that wasn't even that bad of an interception. I mean, it was a good play by their cornerback. It was a ball that was thrown pretty well that Griffin should have probably caught, but it's only 1 turnover. And then BC had 3 of their own. They had 3 interceptions that they caused, and they won the turnover battle. I don't even think BC needs to win the turnover battle to win this game. If they turn it over once and UConn doesn't at all, they'll still win. I don't think that's going to be an issue. It's multiple turnovers, getting sloppy. That regression back into what we saw in the NIU and Holy Cross game is what's keeping a lot of Boston College fans up late at night thinking about this game. You just hope that what we saw against Army, what we saw against Georgia Tech, especially on offense, is going to continue to be consistent in a game like this, that the offense is moving forward and it's not hindering what this team is doing. So my big thing for this is don't turn over the ball. Don't give UConn life. They're just dying to get life so that they feel like they are still in this game. The worst thing that BC could do against an offense that's honestly not all that great is to give them field position and life. Jim Mora Jr. in that team is going to have this, as you've heard a million times, this is going to be their Super Bowl. This is a game that they have circled on their calendar. They're going to be very amped up for this. Don't give them anything. Don't give them reason to believe. You have to be careful. You have to be able to be consistently moving the ball. That leads up to and dovetails nicely with my second point, which is you just need to run the ball consistently against them. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And that will open up the passing game. BC is going to be a run first offense right now. I bet Steve Adazio would watch this and go, man, I wish I could do that, because their pass game is pretty solid as well. And with Ryan O'Keefe coming back hopefully soon, it's just going to get better. But what I say is we saw how grating BC's offensive line can be against a team like Army, a team like Georgia Tech, where by the end of the game, they can't hold on anymore. UConn will have those same issues if you can consistently run the ball. I don't think they have an answer to Thomas Castellanos. I haven't really seen a team on the ground stop him yet. He's had games where he hasn't been as effective, and, he had the fumble against UVA, but I haven't seen anyone really stop him yet. And I don't think UConn will do that either. But just long drives where you just punish UConn, where you're just, first down. And it doesn't have to be long plodding drives, but it just needs to be drives that just assert your will. I think that's going to be a major key. And the best part about this run game is it just makes it so easy to pass too when you need to. I haven't had a chance, I think, to talk about Lewis Bond. He's a guy that I think deserves more of a discussion here on this program, because he is so much fun to watch. He's such a different wide receiver than Zay Flowers, because Flowers, he was fun in his own way because he made every defender look silly because he could do things with his feet that no other wide receiver could do. Bond is tough. He's only, I think, 5'11", if I remember correctly what I read. But getting him the ball, he muscles an extra 5 yards. He shakes defenders. He's tough. And that run game, it just opens it up to get him the ball. And on Eagle Insider, Mitch Wolf has had some great film analysis. And if you haven't checked out his post-game film analysis on Georgia Tech, you can see how this run game really complements the passing game. So really just getting that offense rolling, because just like these other teams, when they're pushing and pushing and pushing, you got guys like Christian Mahogany and Kyle Hergel and Drew Kendall and Ozzie Trapilo just, exerting themselves against your defense all game long. It should wear you down. That offense will move the ball if those guys play well, and that's going to be a major key in this game. BC's just ability to continue doing what they're doing. They don't need to change all that much. They got to clean up some stuff, definitely, on offense, but they got to be able to just continue doing what they're doing, because it's going to take good teams to stop that. And I don't think UConn's good enough to do that. So just continue that. So that's point number 2. Point number 1, limit turnovers. Point number 2, keep doing what you're doing. And then I'm going to give you point 3 in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to tell you about Locked On Celtics. With the Celtics playing tonight against the Knicks, the season's underway. And if you want to get the best analysis out there, you need to see John Corrales and Locked On Celtics. It's where you can get Celtics news wherever you get your podcasts. Now, Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. I just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and boom, place your entry. It's testing my skill on Prize Picks this football season. It's so easy to use with quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types that make it the #1 fantasy sport. So what I love about this is you can even do it across sports. You can go and pick Patrick Mahomes, with 2 touchdowns, and then you could go pick James Harden to score, like 25 points. You can do different sports, and if you feel good about your team or another team, you can do that on Prize Picks. It offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts each player's projections up to 25% to offer more value. And I love it. You need to go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for a first-time deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily sports made easy. And also, our friends over at LinkedIn. if you're in the process of hiring right now, you need to check out that every potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Are you hiring a new manager for your company, or do you need a front end administrative assistant? Well, you just need to know what you're looking for. You put that in, add your purple hashtag hiring frames, and boom, you're going to get your new pool of applicants. With screening tools like screening questions, it makes it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Locked on BC, I'm your host, AJ Black. And we're discussing here a little bit about BC and what they need to do to beat UConn. On tomorrow's show, I will give you, with Mitch of Eagle Insider, our picks to win, who will win this game. I'm not going to spoil it. You can probably guess who I think is going to win and what I'm around in terms of the amount of points I think they're going to win by. But just act surprised when I say it tomorrow. The final thing that BC needs to do to win this game is not allow explosive plays. The defense needs to limit the explosives they allow because they have been bit in games by explosives. We saw it against Army. We saw it to an extent against Georgia Tech. Remember when Haynes King ran that 70-yard touchdown run? UConn, you want to force this UConn offense to try to march down the field and beat you. You don't want to give up 50-yard chunk plays or blow coverages or have other things that happen that make you go, what the heck is going on? BC is, the statistics have shown that BC has struggled this year with explosive, but as things have gone on in the season, it is getting better. It just can't happen against UConn. Last year against the Huskies, BC allowed one explosive at the beginning of that game where I think it was a tight end that caught a touchdown pass that started the game. That was it. Even if they give up one, they'll be fine. This offense is going to score more than one touchdown for BC, but they got to limit it, and they got to limit the mistakes that they make as well. Just stupid penalties, things like that. They've done a great job of cutting down the penalties that they've been called for. Last time I checked, if you went back about a month ago and you looked at penalties allowed, BC was dead last in the country. But they've moved up because they're playing better football. If right now, where are they? They are up to 126. So better, not the greatest, but they're doing better. Because if you look at the Virginia game, 5 penalties, Army game, 3 penalties, Georgia Tech, 5 penalties. That's way down from the beginning of the season when it was 10, 10, 18, and 7. So they're getting better with penalties, but you got to just not let that happen. So explosives, penalties, just really limit those mistakes because UConn has to have a lot happen for them to get this upset. They need BC to do something stupid. They need BC to play off their game. Those are the types of things that will allow an underdog, almost 2-touchdown underdog, to jump back into a game and win one when they shouldn't win one. So they need to just continue the way that they've cleaned that up. If BC has, 5 and 3 penalties over the last 3 games, 5, 5, and 3, that's good. That's much more disciplined football. You just need to play like that. And if, again, if you play against UConn and you let up 6, 7, you'll be okay. Just don't get into the 10s. We cannot allow UConn to run the clock and do what NIU did, which was basically just, drag the game down as fast as they can. UConn, I don't believe, has the rushing attack that NIU did. UConn is 84th in the country with 141 rushing yards per game. That's it's fine. Against teams that, that when they've played some of the better teams like Georgia State 50 yards, Duke 89 yards. They just cannot allow what they've had. UConn has run the ball much more effectively lately. They just need to be able to get them off the field. So that's going to happen with tackles, no explosives, and no penalties, or no penalties, but limit the penalties that you're going to have. Now, in our final segment, I have a question to ask, and I want to just pose it to the folks out there. Is Thomas Castellanos already the best transfer Boston College has ever had? I'll get into that in just a moment. But before I do, I want to tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and it's the official sportsbook partner of Locked On. And I love FanDuel because FanDuel is so easy to use. When I'm watching my college football games over the weekend, I don't use the picks that I make on here. If I did, I would never make any wages again because I've just made some really poor picks. But there's games out there that I'm like, ooh, I feel this. And on FanDuel, I can get the odds, I can get the parlays that I want to do, and I love the amount of special bonuses they have. They have no sweat first bets, no sweat parlays. They've got all sorts of different promotions on there that every time I go in, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Let's do that. And so it makes my betting experience so much easier to use. So what I want you to do is go to fanduel.com/lockedon and kick off that NFL season with $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So you just need to place a $5 bet. You're going to get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. On fanduel.com, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Wrapping things up here on Locked On BC, I'm your host, AJ Black. Check us out over on Eagle Insider, where we'll have some previews. We're going to matchups. We've got all sorts of good stuff heading into this UConn game. And as basketball gets closer and closer to tipping off, we'll have more of that going up on the site as well. Now, I just was thinking the other day, and I asked Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider, my staff writer, about Thomas Castellanos. I had a few questions that were going through my mind. First of all, I saw Mike Farrell formerly of Rivals. Now I think he has like Mike Farrell Sports or whatever. He's a pretty good known college football guy. Refer to Thomas Castellanos as the number one transfer in the entire class from last year, based on what he's done right now. That was pretty high praise. I don't know if I agree with that. There's two names. I mean, I could name you three guys off the top of my head. Two of them at the same position he plays that I think have had bigger impacts than him at this point. Quarterback, Sam Hartman, DJ Uyangale at Oregon State. They're ranked. Obviously Hartman's had some good luck at Notre Dame. I think those are two bigger impact quarterbacks right now. And then at wide receiver, I mean, I just look at Keon Coleman, and those are just three names that pop up into my head. So I know this is not a knock on Castellanos because he has been an excellent addition. I'm just saying I saw this and I was like, no, he's not the number one transfer yet. He could get there. And then I asked myself, is he the best quarterback transfer into the ACC? And that I'd have to say yes. Look at all the other guys that have transferred into the conference and tell me if there's another quarterback right now that's transferred that has done better than him. Phil Jakovic has done nothing. You have Brennan Armstrong, who just got benched. You have Tony Muskett at UVA. No, even Garrett Schrader, who didn't transfer this year, I would still take Castellanos over him. But that's a tougher one to say. But that being said, he is the best transfer, I think, in the ACC in terms of quarterbacks at this point. And he's going to only rise from here. I'm just saying at this point, this is where I see him at. But I had another question that popped into my mind. So I talked about whether he was the best quarterback in the ACC in terms of transfers. And then what Mike Farrell said, I disagree with that. My final question is he the best transfer Boston College has ever had? And that is a question I'm kind of stuck on. And I'm going to go with recent memory. I'm sure some folks are going to think of guys that came in that I don't know about. But I think back, I look at the transfers that, BC for a while was not a big transfer school. They didn't get a ton of transfers. And they weren't a ton that really impacted them. It was basically after Matt Ryan that we started to see some transfers, sprinkle in. And so when I look at guys that have played at Boston College, I ask myself, who are the guys that have been impact transfers? The big name that comes to my mind is Tyler Murphy. Tyler Murphy, we've had Mitch Wolf on, and we both have discussed whether Castellanos is already a better quarterback than Murphy. It's hard to say, and he's got some work to do in terms of getting there, but he's going to get there. So I would say because you only had Murphy for 1 year, and he was limited on what he could do. What he could do was very dynamic, but I think Castellanos has a bigger upside, and I think we're going to see more out of him than we saw out of Tyler Murphy. Then you look at like what Hafley has landed. Hafley has landed Phil Dracovic. Castellanos is better than Phil Dracovic. Jalen Gill, I mean, he's having a great season at Fresno State, but he didn't really do all that much here. You saw some, guys like Kyle Hergel, who's a great offensive lineman. Is he the best? So no, I would still put Castellanos up there. You've seen some defenders come in, obviously on the secondary, a couple linebackers, you've seen different guys come in. And so at the end of the day, unless I'm missing somebody, unless there's a big name that I'm completely whiffing on that maybe he transferred and I just didn't know about, Castellanos is well on his way to being the best transfer Boston College has ever landed. I mean, when they I think 247 will eventually like re-rank the impact of transfers. He's got to be a 5-star. Like he came in as a 3-star transfer. Like they rank you based on how you would look in the transfer portal. I'm looking at him and saying he is one of the top 5 to 10. And by the time he leaves, he's got 2 more seasons left. This guy could develop into a all-American, a all-ACC. I saw, I forget who put it up, but said that if he continues to develop, he's going to be a Heisman candidate next year. I know that's a lot fast, but like, this is where we're looking at right now with this guy after just a couple games. His statistics are absurd. He was ACC quarterback of the week with Jordan Travis. He's already rushed for 9 touchdowns. He's thrown for 10. He's showing a lot out there, folks. I can't wait to see what he does. Now, on our final show of the week, on tomorrow's show, we will be joined by Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider, and we'll give our predictions. We'll also look at our picks of the week. You guys can all make fun of me for making my picks wrong. In terms of the national stuff, I nailed my BC pick. And we'll talk about everything in between, what BC has to do and what they'll do when, if, and all that stuff. And he has, I think you guys are going to want to hear this. He has a tackling statistic on UConn you're not going to want to miss. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the like. Make sure you hit the bell so you know when we go live on YouTube, and you can join us and get into our comment section. Thank you all for listening. This is AJ Black. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247 or on Eagle Insider. Go find us on Eagle Insider. I think you'll like it. We'll see you all again soon. Thank you for listening to Locked On Boston College, your team every day.